Okay, now we're going to talk about Eskay. Eskay put out news earlier this week about targeting at their property. They have basically three main areas in which the exploration is going to be focused in 2022. TV, Jeff, obviously right in the middle there is a major focus, but we also have the C10 Vermilion and Spearhead area in the south, but the Scarlet Ridge area in the northeast there too. And I'm going to touch on each one of these. Okay, there's some really good images in this news release. Good. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, this is the TV Jeff area. Now, what the bright colors are in the backdrop on each of these images, that's the sky temp data. And the bright pinks and reds, those are conductive features. They're presumably, in some cases at least, sulfide bodies, massive sulfide deposits. All right. And you can notice it in all of the 8 targets here. For the most part, you see discrete pimples or blisters like features that are likely sulfide targets within those circles. Okay, now those are accentuated by the geochem that was done. The company did soil geochemistry. They grabbed soil samples. Bear in mind, this is a very steep country. It sees a lot of mass wasting, so it means like the soil's constantly moving down the slope. But nonetheless, they were able to collect soils over most of this target area, and in doing so, they're able to see some really interesting targets emerge. Now, first of all, TV and Jeff are shown in the image, and notice the soils over TV and Jeff are fairly subdued. It's really interesting. Even those are turning out to be very important VMS systems for the company. They're not necessarily the best of what we're seeing here. Okay, there's other very interesting things popping up. If you notice in the gold there, Jeff North, there's a lot of gold anomalism within that circle at the top. Over here on, or sorry, down at the bottom, TV North and TV South, the silver numbers are very high through that whole belt, and there's a lot of blisters through there. Those are probably extensions of the TV system. Look, what's really interesting over on the west side of the anticline at Excelsior North, Excelsior South, and Excelsior Southwest, we see similar geochemistry on the west side of the anticline. It's basically a mirror of what's happening on the east side. So we think we might have TV Jeff type systems on the west side of the anticline too. I mean, this is super exciting. Why? Because that is 6 kilometers from south to north. Okay, from Jeff North, the tippy top, clear down through TV Southeast. That's 6 kilometers, guys. We've barely scratched the surface here, and we're already seeing just phenomenal results. To put that in perspective, the Eskay Creek deposit, the current footprint that Skeena has, is a few kilometers as well. So that, this area certainly has a potential to host the kind of tonnages that Skeena or the other VMS targets around here, including Siblulu and stuff have. So I think that we are onto something big. We're basically looking at drilling out probably 12, 15 discrete targets through here. We're going to do what's called overstepping fence or overlapping fence drilling, where you drill multiple holes right next to each other at an angle, so you make sure that nothing sneaks through. So you literally just point, 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 put holes in the ground to make sure you test an area properly. We're going to do grid drilling like that across these targets to show that this thing is not just 1 or 2 deposits. It's, maybe a dozen or more. You can see all these blisters. Each one of those could be a VMS. The alteration index way over here on the right-hand side, a few of the rock chip samples that the team gathered were analyzed for certain elements that give what's called an alteration index. It basically says, hey, this rock was altered, very strongly when it formed. And that is a really good guide, especially in the north there. You can see very high alteration index to the north of Jeff. In fact, there's a gold sample there. I think it's a little over 5 grams per ton and 73 gram per ton silver that was found out in the middle of nowhere. And there's no drill holes there. Okay, so yes, there will be more discoveries. There's absolutely no question. Let's go to the next slide. Here you can see Vermilion early stage exploration. We did some soil traverses over the C10 Vermilion and Spearhead areas, mainly in the north of that area. And the soils really highlighted some impressive anomalies. We've circled those with black there. It's not just gold, which is shown in the upper left, but it stands out in terms of silver, arsenic, and mercury, which are the classic elements with the VMS. So we're very confident this area has VMS mineralization. The guys also sampled at Vermilion, some massive sulfide literally sticking out of the ground, and they got 14 and 17 gram rock chip samples at surface. So this area, more work's needed to fully define new drill targets, but this will be a major focus for us. Let's go to the next slide. Now, what got really interesting, the guys found some historic work reports from a company that drilled at Scarlet Ridge. They actually explored and drilled at Scarlet Ridge way back in the late 1980s, early 1990s, at the time Eskay Creek was found. And lo and behold, there are surface rock chip samples from that era. This is Granges who did this work that grade 56 gram per ton gold, 20 gram per ton, 15, 12, 10 gram per ton gold, 390, 308, 216, 179, 149 gram per ton silver. The descriptions, if you read the descriptions in the report, the rocks sound like classic VMS, precious metal rich VMS. You think we might have something here? I think so. Okay. And the fact we found this data fully supports that. The drilling that was done, very wide space, but actually snagged some interesting intercepts. Tend to be short, but some are fairly high grade. Like there's one sample, I think, or one drill interval that was at like 8 grams gold. This thing is ripe for discovery. We now have good geophysics and other work, but we're going to do some boots on the ground exploration. The team that we've expanded now to include some other members from the Colorado School of Mines is going to go out and hit this really hard this year in preparation for drilling later in the season. Probably in July, we'll be able to get some drilling going here.